on here. Hi, my name is Allison Groves, and I have the privilege of taking care of our community here at Zapier. And today, I'm super excited to be joined by Brian, who is coming to us from Washington, D.C. and Team Contactually. How's it going, Brian?
Doing awesome. How are you, Allison?
I'm really well, thanks. Thanks for doing this with us today. I think it's going to be fun to kind of talk through some awesome CRM type automations that we can help folks get set up. Before we get going in everything today, just want to quickly mention one little housekeeping thing. If you scroll just below the video of us here, there's a chat box, and one of my teammates, Danny, is in the chat room, and he'll be answering any questions you might have. So feel free to ask those while we're talking. Brian and I are going to just kind of talk through some things. So if you have any questions that come up while we're talking through things, feel free to pop them in there. And I know that Danny would be more than happy to take care of those for you. So Brian, with all that said and done, I got the housekeeping bits out of the way. I'd love it if you could just give us like a really quick rundown of Contactually for those of us who might not be as familiar, or even current Contactually users who might, pick up a thing or two.
Sure. So for those of you who aren't yet familiar with Contactually, it's a really awesome software platform that does a lot of different things. Some people call it a CRM. Some people call it a contact management platform. There are hints of marketing automation there as well. So some people will refer to it as a tool to do that. But what we really help you do is turn your most important business relationships into results. So we help you maximize your networking ROI, make sure that you're building really strong relationships with the key people in your business. Those could be your hot leads, your past clients, your sphere of influence, any possible referral sources, so that at the end of the day, you're following up with those people at the right time in order to turn those relationships into the maximum results that you can for your business.
Oh, very, very cool. And so what we're going to do today is kind of connect the dots. So if you are using Contactually or thinking about using Contactually to manage all these great things that Brian was just talking about, we want to help you connect the dots between that and all the other apps that we know you use, to run your business, to deal with your customers or leads and sales and everything else you might have going on. There's a lot of moving parts there, and you might use anything from email marketing apps to forms and surveys and all those types of things, and even task management. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. So we want to help you kind of connect the dots between the two and make your life hopefully a whole lot easier. So we're going to cover a couple of sort of general use cases, broad ways, maybe get some ideas flowing on how you can use Contactually and connect it to all these other apps that you use every day. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see. There we go. And the first thing that I would love to cover, Brian, is probably like one of the most used things that we see on Zapier, and that's connecting forms to other applications. So there's, I think the possibilities are really endless, but in this particular instance, I think using forms to work with leads and sales is a really, really important thing. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you guys, people using forms with Contactually.
Definitely. So I think you've covered, some of the most obvious use cases for using forms. If you're not using forms, they're a really easy way to capture data about your contacts. And those can either be for new leads, and that's a really great use case for them, but you can also use them to collect additional information or activity that the people that are already in your database are using. So for lead generation, it would look something very similar to like what you filled out in order to sign up for this webinar. You'd have a form with a couple of fields like first name, last name, email address. Some forms might get a little bit more in-depth. They might ask for things like your job title or company company size, or even how you intend to use the product that's being advertised or that produced the form. But at the end of the day, these forms are going to help you, A, generate the leads that you need in order to grow a successful business. And they're also going to help you capture additional information about them so that you have as much of that information on hand when it comes time to effectively follow up with those people. Allison, do you have any other good use cases that I might be missing?
Man, I think you really covered it there. I think the main thing is to just kind of help people think about all the different ways that you can capture information or what you might want to capture information for. And I know that looks different for virtually everyone. But one thing that's that I think is really, really important here is making sure that when you capture that information that you actually get it into your CRM. So I think that's where Zapier can really kind of come into play here, because we can help you take forms, surveys, whatever that is it might be doing to do all those great things that Brian was just talking about, and automatically get that information created and into Contactually, so you don't have to worry about it. You can worry about actually taking care of that person, nurturing the lead, building that relationship, and let the automation kind of do all the heavy lifting. So what that would look like on our side of things is very, very simple. All that we're looking at here is we're saying, if we're going to use Wufoo as our form example, and there's many other different forms that you can use out there, we'll just look at Wufoo here for this specific example. But we're saying here, anytime anyone has a new entry in Wufoo, I actually want to create that contact automatically and contextually. And what we can do when we scroll down a little bit here after we get our Wufoo account connected and our Contactually account connected, we can then say, anytime anyone fills out this particular form, and the form I've got selected here is actually the form that all of you, put your information into today. I think Brian alluded to that earlier. It's just, again, a simple way to capture people's information. So anytime anyone fills out my form, I'm going to create that contact in Contactually. And all I need to do to make that happen is to connect the information that's coming over from Wufoo and match it up to the field that I want it to go to in Contactually. So when I click on Insert Fields here, I just say, I've got this email address that's on my form, I've got the first name, I've got the last name, and anything else that I want to capture on my form, I've got that all here. And once I click on Insert Fields, that's going to match up that information from Wufoo. It's going to populate it right over into Contactually. And I imagine that many of you have spent hours and hours and hours taking information that you might get when you grab information from forms, surveys, etc., and trying to get that into Contactually, and you might have to do it by hand. Well, now when you just match up this information here in Zapier, it's going to do that for you automatically. So you see, as I'm scrolling through here, you have all these options when it comes to Contactually, how you want to create this contact, the data that you want to use to create this contact. And then once that's done, I've got all the information matched up that I want. Here, I'm just plain old email, first and last name. Anytime anyone fills out that form, that's going to happen automatically in Contactually, and you don't have to worry about it at all. And I know that we looked at Wufoo here, but Zapier works with a ton of different form applications. So Typeform, Gravity Forms, Jot Forms, Unbounce, if you're building landing pages, anything you can think of really to grab that information, collect that information from leads or from anything else that you might want to, and get that into Contactually. Don't have to worry about it. We'll take care of all of that for you. So that's forms. I think another really, really cool and popular and useful thing is actually connecting Contactually to your email marketing platforms. And we know that email marketing is like one of the best things that you could do out there for any type of sort of social marketing. And I'm sure, Brian, that you guys have seen people use this in a myriad of different ways to kind of automatically or connect the two if we're talking email marketing and Contactually itself.
Definitely. So Contactually has a couple of email marketing integrations built into the platform natively. But there obviously are a ton of email marketing platforms out there. And many of our customers are very happy with the provider that they've chosen. And there's a good chance that we don't integrate with those platforms directly. So that's why having an integration with a tool like Zapier is really a pretty cool thing, because it allows us to take engineering, development power, and all the resources that we would need in order to build a custom integration and allocate it to things that can help grow our platform internally. So we can then push people to Zapier and say, hey, instead of us building this native integration, we have this great tool that you can use to connect to your email marketing platform of choice. So let's just paint a picture. There are very different use cases for using something like Contactually in order to in order to engage your sphere, the important people in your network, versus an email marketing platform. You'll use Contactually, for example, to strengthen the one-to-one relationship that you have with the most important people in your network. Whereas you might use your email marketing platform for more general brand awareness, higher level messaging that's more applicable to tens, hundreds, or even thousands of people, rather than that unique one-to-one piece of communication that you would be sending through the platform directly. So if you were sending out an email newsletter, for example, you would want Contactually to pick up that conversation history as it would for individual emails that you're sending, either from your own email platform or Contactually itself. You'll want to have the records of your email newsletters going out as well in your interaction history, so that you have a really clear picture of every touch point that you've had with a contact. And so that you don't follow up with somebody before you're necessarily supposed to be doing so. Just to go back a little bit, how Contactually works is we help you follow up with the key people in your network. And we do that by combining a SMART rule for their category, like follow up with my referral sources every 60 days, and your last point of communication. So if you sent someone a newsletter that wasn't tracked, Contactually might remind you to follow up with someone prematurely. If you have that touch point in there, that email newsletter, it's going to recognize that you've gotten in touch with someone at that point, and it's going to wait until the specified 60-day period from your very last point of communication in order to reach out. And this is really important because A, you're not going to be unnecessarily bombarding the people in your network, as you've already set follow-up reminder rules for them. But more importantly, it's going to help you prevent undermining the value of your newsletter. And it's also going to give you more insight into your network, how people are interacting with your newsletters versus your individual communications, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I think to kind of circle back here on the Zapier side of things, since email marketing is so important to so many people, there's so many easy, quick wins that you can get with just these simple automations. So when we look at something like we're looking at here, which is taking any new subscriber that you might have to your email list and automatically creating them as a contact in Contactually, that kind of lets you follow through that path that Brian was just talking about without having to worry about if you're collecting those leads in the right place, or whether or not your email marketing platform is really in sync with the ways that you want to communicate and build those relationships. So in this particular automation, which I think is actually really cool because it's something that you might not think about but is really, really helpful, we're saying anytime I get a new subscriber on any a list in my email marketing platform, that's automatically going to create that contact in Contactually. So if someone signs up for your email list or whatever that might be, whether it's again on a form, which we'll always circle back to forms, but if anyone just subscribes to your list in any way, that contact is automatically going to create. And just like the form example we just went through, it's basically the same thing here. Every email marketing platform is a little different, and we're looking at Aweber here, so you would need to specify things like which account ID it's coming from and what list you want us to look at. But the fundamentals are the same, right? So if we're saying I need to send this information from my email marketing platform over to Contactually, I just need to tell it what I want to move over. So here we're basically saying, again, I'm going to hit on insert fields, and I want to align that email address, that first name, that last name, so I could take that subscriber from my Aweber list, that brand new subscriber, and automatically create them in Contactually. So like you see here, we've got all the same information like you saw in the last example. You can very, very easily create these. And once this is done, anytime you have a brand new subscriber in your email marketing platform, we're going to automatically create that contact in Contactually, so you don't have to worry about it. And I know that Brian also touched on this, that they Contactually actually has some pretty great already built-in email marketing integrations. But and I appreciate him for saying this. The one thing that I think that we can help the most with is helping all of our all of the apps that integrate with Zapier kind of focus on spending time making their platforms bigger and better and more features for all of you, and let us worry about some of these integrations that they might not have the time for because they want to do other things, which is really, really great. And we're very, very thankful that we can lend a hand in that way. So while they have those, you guys have a MailChimp integration, and there's a couple of others. Anything you see here, you could use. So like we went through Aweber, but there's everything from Campaign Monitor to Constant Contact, Emma, MadMimi. The list is pretty long. We've got a lot of them covered here. So if you like your email marketing platform and you're happy with it, but Contactually doesn't integrate with it, chances are that Zapier probably does. So we'd be happy to help out there. And again, it's just a very quick and easy thing that you can do to kind of cut one step out of your process when you're working with building relationships. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on today, Brian, before we go, is tasks. And I know that task management is one of those tricky things out there. There's so many apps that you can work with, but keeping all of that together as far as tasks go with your contact management and your relationship building, I think is really, really important. So I'd love to get your insights on that as it relates to Contactually.
Sure thing. So, one of the things that we're really big on in Contactually is bringing all of your different contacts, tasks, events, etc., into one central interaction and into one central platform, so that you don't have to spend time flipping from tab to tab or from program to program to figure out exactly what you have going on. And I think one of the biggest benefits of having Zapier connect Google Calendar to Contactually is that you'll be able to actually complete your tasks once they're pushed over from your calendar to Contactually. So in addition to just seeing your calendar events and the contacts that you have associated with them and having that information show up on their profile, when you log into your dashboard, you'll have a list of tasks that are due that day, as well as any that are past due. And Zapier will automatically push all of those over from your calendar right to Contactually. So you can go in, work on the follow-ups that Contactually has generated for you, and go ahead and even complete the tasks that have been pushed over to your calendar, all without leaving that one central hub, your Contactually dashboard.
Yeah, and I use something similar to this myself. I think that it's really, really important to kind of connect, especially because we live so much in our calendars. At least I know I do. I'm sure you do as well. So connecting the two together to where we get a good overview and have that shared calendar experience that Google Calendar affords us, but also have that connected to the place where we spend the most time and do the most important thing, which is relationship building and that type of thing, which you guys do so well. I think this is really, really helpful. So like the other two examples we went through, we're basically saying anytime I create a new event on my Google Calendar, I want to actually turn around and create a task and Contactually that relates to that. So we can get everything. I hesitate to use the word synced because we don't really we can't do back and forth, but it's the best way to kind of describe, how we might work here. We want to keep everything that we're doing on the same page. It's probably the best way to put it. So when we create those new events in Google Calendar, and then we're going to want to turn around and create those tasks and Contactually, it's there's one little trick here that we kind of have to think about that comes into play. I'm basically saying, anytime I have a new event on my particular calendar, which I imagine that a lot of you have a lot of different calendars, so you just want to pick the calendar that best fits what you want to do. And you're actually going to have to match that up to a contact and Contactually that you want to kind of keep that task associated with, which I think is actually a really, really cool feature. So this is one of the cases where, in the past, we've been kind of walking through things here, you would click on insert fields and that would pull over the data from Google Calendar or whatever app you wanted to pull information from and match that up to Contactually. In this particular instance, I've actually typed this address in myself. So you can set up any Zap that you would like to kind of match up these tasks for an individual contact and Contactually. And you don't have to worry about matching that up from Google Calendar because Google Calendar doesn't really do that very well. But you can type that address in there yourself and it will take care of it. One cool thing that I've seen people do is they actually have different calendars for different clients or people they might be working with. And so that way they can very easily associate tasks that they're working on in Contactually, and people that they're working with and relationships that they're working on in Contactually with a particular Google Calendar, which I think is actually pretty cool. So in any of these fields, you can hand type that address in there, and that will work just fine. I find that when you're working with Google Calendar, the best thing to do when you're titling a task, because again, like I said, I actually do this myself, the summary is a great way to just kind of pull a very, very quick title for that task. You can set up the due date based on what's coming over from Google Calendar. And then once that's done, anytime you create a new event in Google Calendar, it's automatically going to go over to Contactually to create that task, which, like I said, I use, and I think is a really, really great way to just make sure that you are on the same page with yourself, with your team, whatever that might be, and making sure that everything is getting done and that there's no confusion over what you're doing for what particular person or where you are in any part of a process, which I think is super cool. So that kind of covers just about, this got really big on me, there we go. That covers just about the 3 of the most popular ways that we think that you can kind of get the most out of automating tasks and contacts and Contactually, which I know those 3 ways are really helpful for a lot of people. But there's a lot more you can do, and we'd be more than happy to kind of help people out, whether it's talking through a workflow or just figuring out if it's something that you could do and automate. We're always happy to do that. So this is my contact information. That's my email address, my Twitter handle. Or if you want, contact@zapier.com actually goes to the entire Zapier team. And we're very, very close to having 24-hour support. Almost there. So anytime you have any questions, want to talk through anything, want to see how something works, even want to just have us help you work through an idea that you might have, contact@zapier.com is the best place to do that. And Brian, how can folks get in touch with you guys?
So if anyone has any specific questions for me, they can go ahead and shoot me an email. My email is brian@contactually.com. That's BRIAN. And Contactually is spelled like contact and then UALLY. And I know that there are a lot of people on my team that have a lot of experience talking to customers, working with people to get up and running, especially when it comes to setting up Zapier integrations. So we definitely have a ton of resources at our disposal as well, as far as people that can help you out, give you good ideas as far as how you could use Zapier to connect the various tools that you're using to Contactually. And at the end of the day, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead, shoot me an email. And if I'm not the best person to help you, then I can definitely put you in touch with the person that is.
Yeah, and I think that goes both ways. If we ever need to, and we actually do this quite often, we can easily rope in someone from the Contactually team and make sure that we're getting you the best answer that we possibly can, because no one knows Contactually better than Contactually themselves. So thank you, Brian, so much for doing this. This is a lot of fun. Thanks to everyone for coming. Hopefully, if you have any questions, we've gotten them answered for you in the chat room. I'll stick around myself for the next couple minutes and answer any final questions that you might be having in the chat room. But Brian, is there anything else you want to add before we go here?
I don't think so. Just, if there is anyone on Zapier's end that's interested in checking Contactually out, we do have a free 30-day trial. You can start that at contactually.com/trial, and I'll be sure to get in touch with you with some additional information so that you can go ahead and get started if you'd like.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this with us. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Love seeing how we can make different software platforms work together.
Yeah. And we'll have, as soon as we're done here, this will actually be recorded, and you can come back anytime and watch it. It'll be on this exact same page that you are. If you scroll down the page, there's actually some pre-made automations that you can use right this second. I'm going to build out a couple more for the stuff we talked about today. So anytime you want, you can always come back to this page. We'll have a recording here or some resources, and you can use those automations anytime you might want to. So thanks again for joining us, Brian. And anything you need, guys, don't hesitate to reach out anytime. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.